Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Switch gears, and I do want to get back to the college football transfer portal. And I know for some of you who aren't diehard college football fans or diehard portal fans, the constant updates maybe get a little bit exhausting, but I'm not going to stop doing them because they're really important to the college football conversation and frankly, the college football ecosystem as you look forward to next year. Like, this is how rosters are built in 2023. Now, obviously you need the high school recruits, but you also need these portal guys. And so this has become a big deal, especially in December. And what I want to do, just give you some updates since Sunday night. If you remember Sunday, we did an update. Dylan Gabriel had just committed to Oregon. Colorado had received 5 commitments on Saturday night into Sunday morning. And so I want to just give you everything that has happened since, because a lot is going on and it has a major impact on college football going into next year. Let's go ahead and start with the quarterbacks. I think the quarterback stuff is really interesting. They're the most high-profile players, but more importantly, they commit so quickly. Because essentially, if you're a quarterback and you know you're not going pro and you know you're not going back to a school, you kind of figure out, okay, who's interesting, who isn't very quickly. But then you got to make a decision because there's only one spot on the field. You don't rotate quarterbacks in pretty much any situation. And so if you find your spot, you want to commit, you want to get settled, you want to get ready to go, to transfer over for spring ball. So the quarterback dominoes are falling quick. Let's get into what has happened since the last time we recorded. Let's go ahead and start. Biggest commitment, in my opinion, since Sunday night into Monday. Riley Leonard, the former Duke quarterback, officially announced on Tuesday that he was going to Notre Dame. Now, admittedly, this is not a surprise, okay? He entered the portal, and remember, when he entered the portal, he had a do not contact list, which means that he probably had a pretty good idea before he even entered the portal where he wanted to go. Notre Dame was always deemed the favorite, and now they get him. Couple quick thoughts here. One, this is a really, really, really talented player, okay? He was a guy that spent most of this year injured. He only played in 7 games, and he was banged up for 2 or 3 of them. But he was also a guy that 2 seasons ago in the 2022 year, when Duke went 9-4, yes, Duke won 9 games 2 years ago, threw for 2,900 yards, 20 touchdowns, also rushed for 700 yards with 13 TDs. So he's banged up this year. Mike Elko leaves. You know he's going to go somewhere. And Notre Dame's the perfect fit. Sam Hartman obviously had a successful year this year. We just find out, by the way, that Sam Hartman is opting out of the Sun Bowl, which I thought was kind of an interesting decision. I mean, it feels like to me probably he should get as much film out there as possible. But anyway, Sam Hartman is not playing in the Sun Bowl, but you know he's gone. You have C.J. Carr, the grandson of Lloyd Carr, a 5-star quarterback in this high school class, committed. So you don't want him to necessarily play next year, but you know that he'll be ready to go, etc. So I bring it up to very simply say Riley Leonard is headed to Notre Dame. This isn't surprising. They need a 1-year stopgap, and it makes a lot of sense that Riley Leonard both likes Notre Dame and that Notre Dame wants him. Let's keep it going. A couple other interesting quarterback updates. The first one, Miami. Say what you want. Listen, Mario Cristobal is a monster in the recruiting space, okay? No, Miami had a top 10 class last year. They quietly, I don't think people realize this, in the high school ranks, have a top 5 recruiting class right now for the class of 2024. But they need a quarterback. Tyler Van Dyke, their former quarterback, actually just committed to Wisconsin on Tuesday afternoon. And so Miami needs a quarterback. And, Mario Cristobal, he ain't playing the waiting game. They are having 2 high-profile quarterbacks on campus this week. Will Howard, the transfer from Kansas State, was on campus on Monday. And my understanding is Cam Ward, super high-profile quarterback from Washington State, will be on campus on Tuesday, okay? So, or later in the week. I don't know if it's Tuesday specifically, but Cam Ward's the guy that, listen, it feels like everybody wants. For a while, it felt like Ohio State was in the mix. Now they're not. Are they really? Are they not? But Cam Ward is the guy that seemingly everybody wants. 3,700 yards, 25 touchdown passes last year for Washington State. Number 6 offense in all of college football. Now, Washington State struggled, but it was not because of Cam Ward. And so he decides to hit the portal. Now, I think it's worth noting with him, I've heard buzz that he could seriously consider going pro, and he's still kind of trying to figure out what his draft grades look like. Is he going to come back to college? Is he going to go pro? Whatever. My guess is if the NIL is sweet enough, he'll probably come back, but he is visiting Miami. And Will Howard as well. Will Howard, of course, was the quarterback at Kansas State that led them to a Big 12 championship last year. I like him. I don't love him. He's kind of a dual threat guy, about 2,900 yards passing this past season. Let's see here. How many touchdown passes? 24 passing touchdowns this year. So he's a good player. I wouldn't say he's elite, but he's good. He's solid. You have an offensive line that's really good at Miami. You have a great run game. And so we'll see what happens with Miami. Again, my guess is Mario Cristobal will take a commitment from either of these guys, and you bring them in back to kind of pressure them of like, we got another guy coming tomorrow. We just had another guy here yesterday. Make your decision. So we will see what happens at Miami, but they are obviously in very good shape at the quarterback spot. Really quickly, DJ Uiagalelei, you may remember him from, the old Simpsons line. You may remember him from such college football seasons as 2 years ago at Clemson or last year at Oregon State. And what I would say about DJU, I think he's developed into a nice college quarterback. Now, he was a 5-star, can't-miss kid coming out, right up there with Bryce Young in the recruiting rankings. I don't think he's ever going to be that guy, but he took so much blame at Clemson, but he has turned into a nice little player over the last couple years. 22 passing touchdowns. I don't know why I keep tripping over my words. 22 passing touchdowns 2 years ago at Clemson, 21 this year. He's never going to be a super high percentage completion guy. But at the same time, if you have a run game around him, if you have a solid defense, he can win you a lot of games. Clemson won 10 games last year, and obviously Oregon State won 8 this season. And so DJU is back on the market, 1 year of eligibility left. And we found out on Tuesday that he is set to take his first official visit. That visit will be to Florida State. I've said it a million times. No disrespect to Tate Rodemaker, no disrespect to the kid, the third stringer that started the ACC championship game, but it didn't look like either of those guys was the kind of guy that can keep that program in an elite top 5 situation going into next year. And so Florida State at least wants to add quarterback depth. DJU is expected to visit this week. Really quickly, because we just talked about it a minute ago with Dylan Raiola, but Kyle McCord from Ohio State and then Julian Fleming from Ohio State, a wide receiver, are both on campus at Nebraska this week, okay? So the thought process would be pretty straightforward. Bring in Kyle McCord, starter at Ohio State, 24 touchdown passes this year, and then obviously you let Dylan Raiola back him up, and then Dylan Raiola takes over the starting job in the fall of 2025. You don't want to bring Dylan Raiola in, not give him enough time, not have competition, like all that stuff. You let him back up. You let him learn the system. You let him learn the offense behind Kyle McCord. As I've said before, on McCord, I think he gets a little bit of a bad rap. I don't think it's totally fair. It feels like he's taken a lot of the blame for Ohio State struggles this year. He's not CJ Stroud. I get it. But I think he's a really good college quarterback, and especially as a 1-year stopgap behind in front of a 5-star recruit, I think it's good. Obviously, Julian Fleming is a former 5-star receiver that's looking for a new home, so we'll see what happens from there. By the way, I've seen a lot of negativity about Kyle McCord. He doesn't want to compete, whatever. That's nonsense. And I'm told he's very aware that Dylan Raiola is being recruited and that he may be flipped. Don't believe everything you read on the internet. Okay. All right, let's switch gears. Let's get to some of the other big notes from the transfer portal. I'll say this. So you heard me say it a minute ago. The idea that Colorado got commitments from 5 players on Saturday into Sunday, including 4 offensive linemen. So we talked a lot about those guys. And then right as we were going live, I missed this. But Colorado got a commitment from a really good transfer tight end from Cincinnati, Chimon Mateer. And I'm sorry if I tripped over that name. Colorado fans are going to kill me in the mentions. Go ahead, kill me. I deserve it. It's okay. But this kid's a gamer, okay? Listen, if you watch Cincinnati this year, he's a tight end, by the way, should mention. 23 catches this year. He actually led the team with 5 receiving touchdowns, 11 yards per reception. A North Miami kid, so he's a dog. He's a really talented player, not afraid of anything. Coach Prime loves those South Florida dogs, okay? But when I look at this kid, a couple things stand out. One, he's an awesome receiver, okay? can get out there. You watch Cincinnati. They did not have a ton of skill position talent this year. Now, it didn't help Emory Jones, with all due respect, probably not an elite Power 5 quarterback. But I only bring it up because this kid stood out when you watch those games, okay? Super big, super athletic, about 6'5", 245, 48 pounds, something like that. Makes plays in traffic, but also is a guy that can block if you need to. And these are the kinds of guys that you need if you're Colorado. I keep saying this about Colorado until I'm proven wrong next year. I know that everybody wants to be negative with Coach Prime. And, oh, my goodness, he was all hype. He was all steak and no sizzle. Well, again, quadrupled the win total from last year from 1 to 4. But beyond that, I think this is important. And I keep saying it, but it's important. Of the 8 losses that they had, and he said this, I saw him do an interview. He said, we had 2 really, really, really bad games. Oregon, we got destroyed, and Washington State, we got destroyed. Now, I don't know if he said that verbatim, but he basically said we had 2 really bad games. Look at the rest of the games Colorado played. Besides the 4 wins, you had a 6-point loss to Utah without Shedeur Sanders. You had a 7-point loss to USC where you had the ball late driving with a chance to tie the game up. You had the walk-off field goal against Arizona. Colorado is not that far off. And I think they're going to be even better next year. They're going to be significantly improved. Now, are they going to win a national championship? There's many steps, but they're recruiting well in the high school ranks. We talked about Draylon Miller committing the other day, obviously on top of Jordan Seaton, the star offensive tackle, but they're also really aggressive in the portal. Took care of the offensive line, added 4 guys last weekend. I am sure Coach Prime isn't done. And I'm also guessing that now that the O-line has been pseudo figured out, my guess is these next couple weekends, the priority is going to be on that defense. Again, Coach Prime has said many times, the goal is to run the ball better and stop the run. I believe they're going to do it. There's a kid from Alabama that's in the portal. Remember, the Alabama defensive coordinator, the Colorado defensive coordinator, Charles Kelly, came from Alabama. So I just bring it up to say, I believe in my heart of hearts, they're going to be better than people think. By the way, the Big 12 ain't going to be as good as the Pac-12 was this year, but the big tight end, Chamon Mateer, if I tripped up on the name, forgive me. He's going to Cincinnati. I just know that dude he's going from Cincinnati to Colorado. I just know that dude's a gamer and a baller. Couple other notes because I feel like I'm going long. Typical Torres. What do you want? Sue me. What are we going to do next? We'll do Ole Miss next. So Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin is a monster. Okay. So first of all, Lane Kiffin, shout out to Lane Kiffin because he is a guy that has very publicly complained about NIL. And I get the sense from following the portal this offseason, he got his NIL ducks in a row, and they are in great position with many of the best players in the portal. And I don't think that happens if the NIL isn't right at Ole Miss. That's not an insult, by the way. That's a compliment. I think he thought he was behind. I think he realizes maybe he's not as far behind as he thought he was. And when you win, it certainly helps. Okay. So the big news from Ole Miss is not a player that committed this week, but they're getting a visit from Walter Nolan, the former number 2 player in the class of 2022, played the last 2 years at Texas A&M, 8.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks this past season. Decided to hit the portal after the season, after the Mike Elko coaching transition. And I think when it happened, it felt like everyone said Tennessee, because of course, Tennessee is where he is from originally. He grew up right outside Knoxville. Maybe a Georgia, maybe an LSU, maybe a Texas, Oregon, who he visited last week. Ole Miss was not in the conversation. So the fact that Lane Kiffin is getting this kid to campus, I think it is huge for Ole Miss. And it is kind of ironic, right? Because Lane Kiffin was really the one, even before Nick Saban, that really kind of criticized and called out Jimbo Fisher for that 2022 recruiting class. Remember, he was the one that started by saying some schools like Texas A&M, we need to get them a salary cap or the rest of us can't compete. Well, now one of the stars of that class is headed to Ole Miss on a visit. We'll see what happens from there. Also worth noting, a couple other guys at Ole Miss. Pooh Paul, the linebacker from Arkansas, just committed. Very nice player, former All-SEC freshman guy. And I thought this was very interesting. They got a very good offensive lineman from Southern Miss. Gerquan Scott started 37 games at Ole Miss or at Southern Miss. He is now going to Ole Miss. I think Auburn thought they were in good shape for him. So Lane Kiffin doing a great job in the portal so far. Really quickly, a couple other news and notes. I think should mention Kentucky. I give Mark Stoops credit, man. Listen, you know, the 36 hours of the Stoops to A&M stuff was weird. But this is a guy that has quietly 2 off seasons in a row identified the guys he wanted in the portal and went out and got them. Last year was Devin Leary, Ray Scott. Is it Ray Davis? I don't know why I said Ray Scott. I'm all over the place right now. Devin Leary, Ray Davis. Obviously, Ray Davis was a monster. Devin Leary struggled a little bit. That's neither here nor there. But I respect any coach that has a plan and goes out and executes it. And that's what Mark Stoops is doing right now. Got his quarterback last week, Brock Vandegrift. On top of that, after that, he got his wide receiver, Raymond Cottrell from Texas A&M. And on Tuesday, they got a commitment. Kentucky got a commitment from Chip Trayanum, the former Ohio State running back. Remember, he was the player. He was a running back at Arizona State, transfers to Ohio State to play linebacker. All their running back get hurt last year. He ends up as a running back again this year. Now he's in the portal, and he ends up at Kentucky. I think he saw what Ray Davis could do, what Ray Davis did do this year as a lead back and as a star back. And I think he pretty much saw like, hey, there is an opportunity for me here. And I give Mark Stoops credit. Listen, we got to judge guys based on this moment in time. He's done a very good job in the portal. And I'm very intrigued by Kentucky next year, by the way. Brock Vandegrift is a very good quarterback. Chip Trayanum, these guys that they're bringing in on top of the players that they already have in place, Berrien Brown, Dane Key, etc. This offense has a chance to be fun. It's on Liam Cohen to put guys in position to succeed. I'm not blaming Liam Cohen for this year. A lot of it was on Devin Leary. But I think they have a chance to be better than people think. We will see what happens there. Trying to think of some other stuff. Oklahoma picked up a couple nice commitments, including Deion Burks, a wide receiver from Purdue. I think that's really about it. Georgia lost a few guys to the portal. That happens. A&M lost a few other guys. We've talked about them already. Oregon is obviously making moves. But I think that's about it. By the way, quick reminder. If you're on social media, at CFB Transfers on Twitter, at CFB Transfers on Instagram. Those are our running diaries, our running blog of up-to-the-minute transfer news. Make sure you're following there.